All right, good morning everyone. So we are continuing on with our cupcake tutorial today. Hello and welcome to everyone here. Good morning, Lisa. My morning is going well. I hope yours is going well as well. And we're just going to continue on. So all I've done here is just lighten the sketch down at the bottom just a little bit. I don't want to get rid of a lot of my lines because there is a lot going on in the cupcake wrapper here. And I do like the design with the black going in with the orange, so I want to keep that. Good morning, Crafting with EB. Nice to have you here. Hello, hello. And so I think I'm going to start with the cake part today. I'm going to do the cake in the wrapper and then get that blended out, and then we'll see where we're at with time-wise, and then we'll maybe go back and start putting in some more details. But I'm going to start with that black raspberry. So this was the darkest color that we had put in our icing up here. And I'm going to focus this color just below the icing area because it's going to be darkest there. And I want to get a little bit purple because that icing's reflecting onto our cupcake part. But I don't want to pull this down too much because I like some of the blue that I can see going on in the cupcake as well. So I want to get that in there too. So we're going to have a little bit of contrast of warms and cools going on. Good morning, Kian Alina. Nice to see you here. And I went ahead and reset my internet router and everything before we started today, so hopefully there are no issues today. I'm going to go ahead and put my piece of glassine under my hand while I'm working on this side. And I want to make sure I get right up to that icing. So hopefully everything goes well, and if it does, then that's just something I'll do before each stream. Just go ahead and reset the router, and maybe that'll just be the ticket. So how's everyone doing this weekend? We are finally back onto our Sunday schedules again, and I'm not working any more weekends for, I think, until after the new year, because I took a few of my weekends off. So we should be live streaming every Sunday at 10 a.m. Atlantic time for a while. And then I'll let you guys know when it's going to switch to the Monday when I'm working again. Now getting some of our darker colors in here too is really going to help with our icing, help it pop more. And once we get some of our darker values in, we'll be able to really judge, you know, what we need to add or do to our icing. So I sort of like to work, you know, in an area of a time and get it kind of done. Like that's not completely done, but it's done enough that I can move on to the next area. And then I like to do my final details sort of over the whole thing. EB says, yeah, I'll be streaming today, gonna paint pumpkins. Oh, very nice, very nice. I have a Halloween jack-o'-lantern painting design that I just finished. So I'm really excited to get to that, and we're going to do that in pastels, I think. So that's really exciting. So we'll see how far we can get with this cupcake today. And then, because I'd like to start that one next weekend maybe. Just because it's going to take us probably a couple of weeks to get done for sure, and it would be really fun, you know, to be working on a, you know, a jack-o'-lantern for Halloween. So I'm going to put that black raspberry down, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up my indigo blue 901. EB says I need to finish my coloring sheet first, and I can't wait to see that. Yeah, I'm excited to get to that one. So the rest of the cupcake part I'm going to fill in with this color. And this is just our undercolors. So we're still going to go on top with some browns. And this is a really dark cupcake too. So we really got to make it nice and dark. But I do like putting down some color underneath, especially my darks, because sometimes they can look a little flat if you just go on top with your dark colors first. And I'm just going to go ahead and line around our cupcake liner here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a little piece of tape because I taped the top of this. I taped it up here, but I'm going to tape it down here too, just so it doesn't wiggle or move as much. There we go. And I'm not pushing super hard here, but where I want some definition, I am pushing a little more like medium pressure versus light pressure everywhere else. And I want to play up that blue that I can see in the cupcake. And I'll probably play that up in the wrapper too. Because of course blue and orange do complement each other. They're complementary colors. So adding them into your artwork is going to help it pop and stand out even more. But we can do it subtly. So we're obviously not going to leave it this blue. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill in. So let me know how the stream's working for you guys today. Is it better today? It's not jumping or skipping or freezing. It's working wonderfully. Okay, thank you, EB. Perfect. So hopefully that's just the thing I'll have to do is just reset the router each time, and I'm hoping that'll be good enough because that seemed to work last weekend. So fingers crossed. Okay, so I am going to grab my dark brown now, 946, and I'm going to put this color over top of the blue, mostly like in the middle-ish area here, and then we'll go a little bit darker on our sides. Lisa says, yes, it's good today. Okay, perfect. And again, with this color, I'm just doing a light pressure. Now, I don't want to go too dark with this cupcake right away either, because we do want to add some detail in for the cake part itself. So I want to be able to go over with a little bit lighter lights and a little bit darker darks, and that's going to create that cake texture. But we've got to get this layer blended out first. So then I'm going to go ahead and grab my dark umber, 947, and I'm going to sort of put this color everywhere else, so close to the icing and close to the wrapper. And this is just going to help all these colors blend together. So I always find putting in these underlayers a little more tedious. You've got to be a little more thoughtful with your colors. Once we get things blended out and we go on top and we start creating some details, that's the fun part for me. That's what I really like, especially with colored pencils, but any medium really. EB says, I'm finally getting my full set of Prismacolors and those oily pencils that everyone is talking about. Polychromos? Do you mean Polychromos? Those are probably... I started with my Prismacolors, but I think my Polychromos are slowly becoming my favorites. Because they layer so well, they blend so well, and I love using my Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, and they're the same like number set, so if you want to use one Polychromos and an Albrecht Durer, you can use the exact same pencil, like if you wanted to do an underlayer with them. So that's pretty cool. I like that. But my Prismacolors will always be my first love because I started with them. But I also have Luminance and some Light Fast as well. And a lot of those ones I use when I do like my pet portraits. And I'm just constantly spinning my pencil here, if you guys can see, just to keep the point as sharp as possible. And again, I'm taking this color right over where I put that black raspberry. Or do you mean the Holbein pencils, EB? Is it Polychromos or Holbein? I only have a couple of the Holbein pencils because we got them in a subscription box. I think it was Palettefull. But I can't bring myself to pay for the full set because it is just way too expensive. Maybe if there was ever an amazing sale or something, but I just can't justify spending that much on pencils right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and blend this out right now, just so that once we finish everything, hopefully it'll be dry by that time, and then we'll be able to come back and put some details in. So I'm going to go ahead with my Gamsol, my Odorless Mineral Spirits, and just blend it out just like we did with the icing up here. And again, I always try to start from the lighter areas and go to the darker areas. You love them too? Yeah. I do want to get the full set of Faber Castell, the Polychromos. Okay. They are wonderful pencils. And I normally use them, but I just really wanted to pull out my Prismacolors for this project because I haven't used them in a while. What pencil sharpener do I recommend for colored pencils? I like this one here. It's the Derwent Super Point, and this is the mini one, but I also have the big one too. But I find the mini one's just fine for colored pencils, and I have a separate one for colored pencils and for pastel pencils, because sharpening your pastel pencils in a sharpener will dull the sharpener over time. But I will go through with woodless graphite pencils, and that helps keep it sharp for a longer time. So, you know, once I'm done a project sharpening my pencils, I'll just pull out a woodless graphite pencil and just put that through. And you don't have to put it through a lot, just enough to sharpen it up, and that will keep the blade sharper for much longer. And I find that one, I get a super sharp tip with it. Although some pencil sharpeners like that will say they have like an automatic stop point. I find if you just keep sharpening it and sharpening it, it will sharpen it too much. So I'll do like a few cranks, check it, do a few more cranks, check it again. Because I find it can, especially if you're using your Prismacolors, it will sharpen it to such a fine point that it just ends up snapping off. So I hope that helps. That is definitely my favorite. And I do have a video showing sharpening my pencils using that. I think I have an old video. It's pretty old, I think. And I sharpen like pretty much all the pencils I have, including my pastel pencils, just so that you can see it's so versatile. So you can use, even though the Derwent drawing pencils are very thick, and they won't go into a lot of pencil sharpeners, they fit just as well into that one. So I can sharpen all of my pencils with that, so I really like that. This cupcake looks yummy, yes. Yes, I might have to go get some cupcakes after this one. I love drawing cupcakes. Any kind of dessert really, but that is reflecting. So there must be like a blue light coming somewhere, because we've got sort of a shadow area coming this way and a shadow area coming this way. I'm more following the one coming this way. So that's why I'm playing up some of those blue lights. Okay, it says my connection is going a bit, so let me know if it's not looking good for you guys or if we're having any issues. But I'm just going to get this along some of these here. Okay, it says the connection's good again, so I'm not sure if it's on my end or not, but the stream is buffering for me. Yeah, it started buffering for a second and then came right back, so I'm not sure why it's doing that, but so I'm just catching some of these highlights here. It did froze for a bit, had to back up on the video, and it is helping. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully it just continues on good from now. So I'm going to go back to that indigo blue, and I'm going to start using this in some of the black areas. So I'm going to start putting this as like a base layer. Now some of these areas back here are kind of hard to define, so it's hard to tell, you know, what's going on because they're quite blurry in the photo. But I tried to get them in as best I could. Maybe try Twitch sometime to stream and see if it's any better. I stream on Twitch and they have good days and bad days as well. Yeah, that's what I've heard, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm just trying to see where I'm at here. And I'm just trying to get like a hint of this color into the dark areas. It doesn't have to be over the whole thing. But because we've got some of that blue in the cupcake, it's going to help like make it more cohesive. And especially in the middle areas of the wrapper parts, because that's going to be where it's the darkest. And this is going to take the longest because we're just trying to map things out right now too. So what's everyone up to this week? Anything fun going on? Okay, so I think I've got those spots in now. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the orange spots just so that we can get those in and make sure that we don't miss those. So I'm going to go ahead with my yellowed orange 1002, and I'm going to get some of those like orangey brighter areas in. Oh, and look, that one's totally broke. That doesn't happen often, but sometimes with Prismacolors it can. So hopefully it's not an issue where it's broken right down the middle, but I'm going to go ahead and just sharpen this up again real quick. So that's one thing that can happen with Prismacolors if you've dropped them, or sometimes just with shipping, manufacturing. going to, I've got, okay, I've got an electric sharpener on standby too. So sometimes if it is broken or something like that, my electric sharpener helps a little bit. So hopefully that will be better. But for whatever reason, my crank sharpener just didn't want to take this one. So it's always nice to have a few options. Just work for you. My nephew came home and is doing much better. Oh, good. I'm so glad for that. I'm so glad he's doing better. So I'm going to get some of these orange spots in now. Okay. So I'm going to start following the lines, the curves of this cupcake with this lighter area, because where the wrapper points out is going to be the lightest area. So that's what I'm going to do, start getting these in. And then we'll start going in and darkening things up too. And on the areas where I didn't put that blue highlight, I'm going to take this too to create that highlight. I feel bad for Corey. She has COVID going through her home. Poor girl. I know. I sent her an email the other day just to see how she was doing, because I felt, you know, I was watching some of her videos when she was talking about it, and I just can't believe what she's going through. But she hasn't sent me a message back, so I'm hoping everything's okay, that they're okay, but I imagine she's probably getting a lot of messages from people, you know, wishing her well. And but I imagine she's probably so busy right now. So I'm just bringing this up to the darker areas. And then sort of once we get an idea, you know, of where everything is, we can start filling it in. But I find it's a lot easier, especially when you've got a busy picture like this. You don't want to lose your areas. So I like to sort of map it in and then kind of go from there. Yeah, I hope she doesn't get it. Fingers crossed. I hope so too. But, you know, she's in the same home with, I think, 3 other people. I think it was her husband, her son and maybe one of her daughters that got it. So, I mean, the likelihood of her catching it is pretty good, unfortunately, but let's hope for the best and hope that that she doesn't. Just going to sharpen this up a little bit for the lines there. And again, I'm just using my electric sharpener because for whatever reason, the crank one doesn't want to sharpen this one. So just where our lines are getting a little smaller, I need a little more precise point. Okay, and some of these areas where it's a little brighter, I'm just going to start lightly shading this color down as well. Just a little bit. Just to help with keeping our highlight. EB says, I got my booster on Friday. Oh, congratulations. So is that that's your third one, right? Or your second one? I don't remember. And Lisa says, Stan and I got our second shot on Wednesday. That is amazing. Good job. Definitely, that's one of the best things you can do right now to help prevent the spread of COVID is go ahead and get your vaccination if you're able to. There are, of course, some exceptions why people can't get it, but that absolutely definitely helps. It's your third. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought you had already got your other shots, but I wasn't 100% sure. They're starting to roll out the third shot here, but it's for like special care homes right now or people with who are immunocompromised. So hopefully eventually we'll all get the booster. I'm thinking at some point it's going to basically come down to here's your flu shot, here's your COVID shot, you know, every year, something like that. Okay, so I am going to go in with my pumpkin orange now, 1032, and I'm going to start filling in the rest of the orange areas of the cupcake here. EB says, I was able to because I work with small kids who can't get it. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes total sense. Now for this part, I've really got to be looking at my reference photo because there's so much like little things going on. But once we get it blended and go back in, it's going to be a lot easier. If we want to add any more, maybe we'll get this blended out and, you know, you're happy with where it is if you're following along. So Yeah, it will be like the flu shot, unfortunately. I'm getting that impression. It just seems like it just doesn't want to go away. And the size that I've drawn this cupcake to, so this is a 5x7. So the cupcake's relatively small, so we're not going to be able to achieve a whole lot of details. We can still get some in, but if you really want to work on like details and get this like looking really realistic, then you might want to draw it out or trace it out a little bit bigger than what I've got it here. So it just depends what your goals are. But we can still add a fair amount of detail in here. And for anybody that missed the beginning of this stream, you can always go back and watch how we did our cake part. We will go back and add to that because we want to get that cake texture in there. And if you want to follow along with this and you're just joining, I do have the sketch and the reference photo down in the description for you. If you're just joining, don't forget to like and share the video. Yes, thank you. That definitely helps. And I did put a poll up on my channel just to see, I was asking, you know, what your favorite mediums are to use, because I'm just trying to get an idea of, you know, when I'm doing out tutorials or draw-alongs here, I just want an idea of, you know, what mediums people want to see more of. And so far it's colored pencils, watercolor, and pastels. So we will definitely be doing more of those. And then charcoal and gouache got some votes too, so we'll add those in every now and then. But I'll definitely stick to the other ones, unless, you know, sometimes I see a reference photo and I'm just like, this is the medium I have to use for this. Like sometimes, you know, it just speaks to me that way. So that may happen too, but. And I'll probably put out another poll coming up, maybe next week or something, because I don't want to, you know, throw out all these polls and stuff at you guys right away, but I'll probably put up another one just asking what your favorite subjects are. So whether you like, you know, dessert drawings or botanicals or whatever, and then you guys can let me know. I'm just going to get a little more light color in here. Yeah, and then you guys can let me know, and then, you know, I'll focus on that kind of stuff because I love doing botanicals as well, but I know not everybody does. So it just depends on what you guys want to see. And hit that subscribe button and bell notification. Yes, YouTube is notorious for not sending out notifications, especially for live streams for some reason. So even if you hit that bell notification, if you're not getting notified, sometimes you do have to go back in and unhit it and then hit it again. And that helps. But also when I put the live stream up, you can always go in and hit that remind button. And it should, if you hit the remind button, it should definitely send you a notification. And if it doesn't, well then YouTube's just broke. So we're getting into some tiny areas here, so I'm just trying to be as precise as I can. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'll sharpen this up, and I might as well just use my electric sharpener since I've got it out. And it's quicker right now. Oh, good morning, Shadow. Nice to see you here. Thank you for joining. So we're just trying to get some colors into this here now. So this is definitely the tedious part, trying to get these colors all in and not get lost. And I'm just going back on some of these that I added at the top and just shading them slightly more towards the top. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my terracotta 944 and I'm going to sharpen this up as well because I want a pretty sharp point for this one. And this is going to be the darkest one in the orange areas, so I'm just going to add it in to the darkest areas. So where our shadows are, so on this side the shadows are more this way, and on this side the shadows are more this way. So I'm going to add this into those areas, and in the middle here it's sort of more in the middle. So you really want to look at your reference photo and see where those darkest areas, because as the cupcake is folding in, those middle areas are going to be the darkest, or if it's folding more to the side, underneath where it folds over is going to be the darkest, if that makes sense, I hope. And I'm starting on this side just because it's got smaller areas. So once our tip gets worn out, we can work our way over to the bigger areas. So basically where I've put those highlight lines, I'm just working either on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of it. And I'm not covering all the way like the other color that we laid down either. And I'm just working in the orange areas. And then we'll go back and we'll sort of do the same thing with our blue areas, get everything blended out, and then we'll see where we're at. Naomi C, thank you for giving a warning when you're about to sharpen your pencils. I'm wearing headphones, so the warning is a huge help. Okay, perfect. No problem. Because the electric sharpener is a lot louder than my crank one, but it's just quicker for the live stream. So I hope that was enough warning. I will say it, pause a minute, and then do it. So some of these, there's not even really a whole lot to put a shadow into, maybe just a little bit sort of in the middle here, because it's more like open, so our shadow would be in the middle area, in these areas. So I'm just trying to follow along, and if I see a spot in the orange, then I'll put it in. And again, here where it's starting to fold back the other way, there is a little bit more shadow. And as we get further to the side, our darkest shadow's just going to be right at the edges. So right along those highlights there. And I'm also going to take this just down at the very bottom and just sort of create just a little bit of shadow right at the bottom. Because as you can see, our lines don't always all come down to the same area because it is a little bit darker where the cake's sitting right at the bottom of the wrapper. Okay. So now I'm going to grab my dark brown and I'm going to start doing sort of the same thing with the black areas here. So I've got that light layer of blue in, and I'm just going to sharpen this up again real quick because I'll start on this side and work my way over. So you've been warned, shadow. There. And I'm going to start putting in like our lightest areas right along the edges. With this color. And I'm going to go ahead and just blend it out a little bit now, since we've got, you know, we know the area that we're putting this color in, but that's basically what I'm going to do. So I'm really trying to follow, you know, where that light is hitting the cupcake wrapper. I just washed my pumpkins to get them ready for the stream. Ooh, are they real pumpkins? Are you doing real pumpkins today? And you said you're painting them. So I'm interested to see what you're going to be painting on them. Now some of these in the middle are going to have sort of a highlight area on both sides, but of course the darker area is going to be darker. Now this one's got an area where like two dark sides meet, but I'm just going to lightly just go down the middle with that blue color that we put up in some of the wrapping as like the highlight, just to help define that there are two areas here. And we can always go on top after we blend it out too, and just if it's too much we can tone that down. But I want some definition in this wrapper. EB says, I'm thinking either a pouring or actual birthday painting, a face or Disney. Sorry, birthday was supposed to be in there. Well, wasn't supposed to be in there. Okay. Interesting. A pouring would be neat to see on top of the pumpkins, but the other ones would be neat to see too. I'm thinking Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, that would be interesting. That would definitely be interesting to see. Okay, so now that we've got most of our light areas in, I'm going to go ahead with the black. And now I normally don't jump to black right away, but because these areas on the cupcake wrapper, like, oh, is it just frozen? I'm experiencing problems. Okay, is it getting any better now? How can I change? I wonder if I can change any of the settings to make it better. Oh, come on, YouTube. Don't be doing this to me. Yeah, it's back, but fuzzy now. Oh, it might have just cut off. No. It's clear for me now. It's clear now. I'm fine now. I don't know why it's doing this. I'm gonna have to like Google something to try to figure out if I can change the bit rate, maybe bring it down a little bit for the connection wise. But okay, if you guys are saying it's clear now, it's good now. I'm still getting an error message, but hopefully all is good. Please let me know if it changes. But I'm just going to continue filling in this with this black in some of these areas here. Okay, it looks like it's good now, so I don't know. Yeah, it's good now. It's clear now. Okay. Well, I apologize, you guys, but I will do some research and just see what I can do to kind of make it better for streaming, just because it is kind of annoying when it's constantly cutting out, and I'm sure nobody wants to watch that. And I don't know why it's just starting to do that, because it was never doing it when I first started streaming. It's just been like the last couple of weeks. Hello, Ash. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. And again, with this color, I'm not trying to, you know, fill in all the areas. I want to try to keep some of that light brown there. But I want to get these areas darkened up too. And I really appreciate you guys sticking around when we're having troubles like this. It's really nice to have some loyal watchers. But I'll definitely try to do some research, something. I thought maybe just resetting the router before each stream would help, but clearly maybe not. Yes, please give a thumbs up if you're just joining. Thank you, EB. And again, I'm going to darken the base up too, because there's a nice dark shadow that kind of comes around the edge of the cupcake a little bit. I'm going to just grab that. Where did I put my light dark brown? And I'm just going to get a little bit in here on this edge, just a little bit more. And if you guys have any questions while we're going along, you know, feel free to ask. Or if you have any suggestions, let me know. Sometimes when I'm concentrating, I just get a little quiet and I forget people are watching. And again, just really watch where those shadows are coming from as the cupcake folds change. You want to change your shadows. You don't always want to be putting them on the same side. And again, I'm going to grab that dark brown and just fill in here a little bit. I missed this spot. Loving the cupcake, wonderful. I hope it's showing up on camera that we're starting to get some nice contrast in here, and then once we blend it out, it's going to be even more obvious. But I really liked the design of the cupcake wrapper. That was one of the reasons I chose this. Just didn't like the icing part so much, but you know, that's where you can just go ahead and change things yourself. You don't always have to follow your reference photo 100%. Now there are times where I get a reference photo and I just love everything about it, and then there's times where I'm like, nah, let's change this. Very Halloween, yeah. That's why I definitely chose this one. I really liked it. So I'm hoping to get as much done as I can today if this stream will stay good, because I'm really excited to start our next project, which is our spooky jack-o'-lantern one. And I really want to do that one with pastels, I think. So let me know, do you guys, depending how much we get done today, because there is some more detail and stuff that I want to put into the icing and into the cake itself. So do you want to continue this next weekend? Because I don't imagine we'll get the whole thing done today. Or would you guys rather me finish it up like during the week sometime and put out like a real-time tutorial? Just finishing the details of it. And then we can go ahead and start our spooky jack-o'-lantern next weekend. Because it would be really nice, you know, we could work on it next weekend and then we'd be working on it for Halloween. Or we can continue this and do our final details next weekend and then start our jack-o'-lantern one. I feel like I just said that weird, jack-o'-lantern, jack-o'-lantern. I feel like the more times I'm saying it, it's just coming out weird. Then we can start that one on Halloween weekend and just continue into November. So let me know what you guys would rather do. I'm just gonna get a sip of water. Find it gets dry in this room when I've got the door closed. And I'm just going to go ahead and sharpen this up just slightly to get just a sharper tip, because we're getting into some smaller areas here. So if you're wearing earbuds, you've been warned. Shadow says, I think you can finish up the cupcake on your own time and then start the jack-o'-lantern next weekend. And EB agrees, yes, go to the jack-o'-lantern, getting that Halloween, oh my gosh, I can't talk today, you guys, Halloween vibes. Perfect. So as long as, you know, everybody else is okay with that, that's what we'll do. And I can just make a video of doing our, you know, finishing details of the cupcake. Because of course, anybody that's following along, I want them to be able to finish this project up the way that I want it. You know, there's still definitely details, and we'll get into some of it today. But I'm also really excited to start that other project too. And that one I've designed completely myself. I've taken a few reference photos, putting them together. So I think it'll be really fun. And doing it in pastels will help speed it up just a little bit too. Will you be streaming on Halloween? So that's another thing that I was going to ask people, and I would probably put out, I'll probably ask, you know, the weekend before as we're streaming, doing it. But I don't know if people would want me to move the live stream that weekend to Saturday instead. And we could stream, you know, Saturday instead of Sunday, because I know, you know, some people are probably busy on Sunday, you know, doing Halloween stuff. So, you know, you guys could let me know today, but I'll ask again next weekend as well. And then I'll probably put out like a poll, like in the community tab too, or something next, like the week coming up to it. Okay. Oh, I missed this little spot here. I'm just noticing. Because if people don't mind and they want to stay on Sunday, that's fine. I don't mind that, but I can definitely move it to Saturday instead. And I'm just adding a little bit of that dark brown in here. And right here. Just coming into some of the lighter areas where I think it just needs a little bit more of that dark brown. I'm streaming on Halloween. You're earlier, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Yeah, so, and people might not really care because, you know, Halloween is later in the day and I do stream earlier, but it depends where you're at in the world, obviously, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and blend this area out right now. And I might even grab my smaller brush. So this is just a small round brush. I think this is a size 0. I'm going to use this for the tinier spots. Actually, I might use this for the whole thing because it is kind of small. And I'm using my Gamsol Odorless Mineral Spirits. I've just got it off to the side here. I don't know if you can see here. Maybe I can drag it over so it's a little closer. And I'm going to start in the lighter areas. So that light blue that I put down along some of the highlights here, I'm going to get that in. So I like to blend specific areas or specific colors first as I go so that not everything gets muddied up and the colors blend too much together. So that's how I like to do it. You can do it however you want. Oops. And I just dip back in when I think I need more. Now, when you're first blending out with the OMS, it will look a lot darker than it will be because it will dry a little bit lighter. But it definitely does look dark at first, so don't be like, oh, that's way too dark. And now I'm going to start blending into our orange areas. And I always try to blend light to dark. Sometimes it's hard when they're just very small areas. So this is another one of those like little tedious things, because you do have to take your time. And I think I am going to switch to the flat one. So this is just a flat 2 Filbert Taklon brush. And these are my favorite to blend out, but I do like the round tip ones for like more precise areas. But I think I can get away with this one. We'll see. So I'm trying not to go too much into those dark areas yet, because I don't want to drag that color down into our orange cupcake parts. I can see if you stream late, that would be a problem. Your cupcake wrapper looks like tiger stripes. I never thought of that when I was doing it. I just thought, oh, you know, black and orange, that's kind of like Halloween-y. I never thought tiger stripes at all, so that's kind of funny. Well, there you go. This could be a tiger cupcake or a Halloween cupcake. You decide. That's too funny. Now some of these bigger areas, I'm just gonna sort of get the lighter areas blended and then go back in and blend everything, I think. Just because that'll save a little bit of time, because I'm not picking up too much of that dark color. And with OMS, you can do that. It's not going to create a line where I haven't blended the dark area into the light area. It just helps us sort of blend, you know, different areas separately. Now you could go ahead and blend each area on its own, but I'm just going to keep with the light one so I can keep going. And then I'll come back and blend the darker orange areas. And you can see how the OMS is just sort of melting it all together. It just creates a really nice, almost like painting-like feel. And I really like that in my colored pencils. And around these darker areas, I'm just trying to be as careful as I can. Getting up to the edge, but not going over too much. It's really looking good. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Once we get it all blended out, that's where the little ripples in the cupcake wrapper are really gonna pop. And it's gonna make sense. All these colors that we've been laying down and where we've been laying down, it's all of a sudden gonna make sense. Trust me. Trust the process. The OMS does wonders on colored pencils. It does. So I tried colored pencils before I decided that watercolors was going to be my medium at first. And I think the reason I didn't like the colored pencils was I didn't want to take the time to layer them too much. And I couldn't find a blending method that really worked for me. And once, I think it was Lisa from Lock 3 Fine Art, I had seen one of her videos where she was, you know, showing how she uses the odorless mineral spirits, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, where has that been? I need that. So I tried that, and I never looked back. It's definitely been a game changer. And just because you blend out with your odorless mineral spirits doesn't mean that you can't go on top with colored pencils, because it fills in the tooth. So now we've got, you know, the tooth filled in, so we can go on top, and because we didn't destroy our tooth on the paper, it will still take more layers, and we can still, you know, put lights on top of our colored pencils or put darks on top to create more depth. We've got so much more options now. So now I'm going in and getting those darker spots that I missed before. And this OMS that I've had the bottle now for probably 2 years or so, and I've hardly made a dent into it. And so I've just got a cotton swab on there, and I put like a little bit of the OMS, the Gamsol, on that. And it lasts for so long. Like, I maybe only have to change it every couple of months. But mind you, I'm not just using colored pencils. I use other mediums too. So maybe if I was using just colored pencils, I would have to change it out a little more often, just so I would have like nice clean OMS and not risking contaminating it with all these colors, like you can see from projects that I've been doing. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And so it's hard sometimes when you're doing the OMS to get little tiny areas, little tiny details, but that's why it's so fun to go back on top with your colored pencils, and then you can create those details so easily. Where can you get OMS? Any art store, really. I wouldn't go to a hardware store, because there are like odorless paint thinners, I think, that you can get at like hardware stores, but those aren't meant to be used for art. OMS like Gamsol, or there's also the Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits. I think there's one called Zest It as well. So it just depends where you're at, what's going to be more readily available to you in your area. But they're formulated so that they're safe to be used for artwork. So they're archival, which is one thing. So they're not going to fade or change the color of the pencils or do anything over time. But they're also, you know, meant to be breathed in more, whereas some of the stuff that you can get from the hardware store is not. You don't want to be breathing that in. And I still limit the amount that I'm breathing in, because it's still a chemical, right? Even though it's meant to be used in art, it's still a chemical. So that's why I like using one of these little mason jars, because I can keep this, can you guys see that? I can keep this top part on all the time and just dip in and then close it again. So that really helps too. Shadow says, I sometimes use the Caren blender stick to blend colored pencils, but I don't know what I'm doing with it. It doesn't do much for me. Yeah, I tried blender sticks before, and I couldn't really see the point of using them either. It's just like, it just sort of mushes your pencils down into the paper, I guess. Maybe I'm just not using them right. But I just never really found a point to using them. And plus, when you're using a blender stick like that, you have to push a little bit harder to blend your pencils out, or in theory, that's, I think, what you're supposed to do. So right there, you're sort of already pushing that tooth of the paper down. So when you want to go on top with more colors and create more layers to create more depth, you're already sort of like hurting yourself being able to do that. But I've just never been a fan of using those blender pencils. Now, I'm sure there are some people out there that use them and can create amazing art. I'm just not one of them. But for my technique, the way that I like to work, the OMS just works perfectly for me. The same with Prismacolor blending pencils. I don't know how to use it. They both mush the colors and damage the paper. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm not the hugest fan of using them. As far as I know, I think the Caren blender is supposed to be better than the Prismacolor one, but I just can't get either of them to work for me. So I'm trying to be careful coming towards the edge here. And if you use too much odorless mineral spirits near edges, it can leave a little bit of a greasy looking area. But once it dries, it should dry, you know, completely clear again. But you can get that look, so don't panic too much if you get that. But if you use a lot, like too much, sometimes it can stain the paper and you'll get like a little greasy looking spot. So that's why I like to have that gauze in there, because it limits the amount of OMS that I'm picking up at a time. I find it's just the perfect amount to blend the pencils out. Okay, so I think that's all of our orange areas blended out now. And I'm going to go in and do the same with the darker areas. And I'll probably do these little areas last with that smaller brush that I have, so I'll try to go in and hit these areas here in the wrapper. And again, I'm trying to hit the lighter areas first, but some of these areas are so small, it just blends it sort of all together. And we can always go on top afterwards and create a little bit more of a highlight if we need it in some, like along some of these areas. Now, because I didn't go all the way up with the orange too, I'm trying to coax this down so that they meet each other. Because you don't want like a white gap in between where the orange and the darker spots mix or meet. The wrapper is amazing. Your patience is paying off. It is. Sometimes it's just like, you know, colored pencils are a slow medium, but you can really make some beautiful work with it, and detailed. Like you can get lots of detail. So we've only laid down a few pencils, and yet we were able to create, you know, that look in the wrapper. So that amazes me. Like you'll put stuff down, you're like, I don't know if this is gonna, you know, look how I want. You blend it out and you're like, oh, that looks pretty good. All right. That sort of gives me motivation to keep going with the colored pencils. Now, because there's only a few of the darker places, I'm just sort of like blending it all at the same time. So I'm starting with the light and blending into the darker. And patience is key when blending small areas like this too. Now when I'm getting into some of these more bigger areas, I'll go ahead and do the same I did with the orange, because I want to make sure I keep those light areas light. So I'm just going to blend the light areas, and then we'll come back and blend our dark areas into it. Just because I want to make sure I keep that nice definition. And this little spot here is where I added that hint of blue in there, so we'll see how that looks. I'm hoping when the brown mixes with it, it sort of just creates like a grayish highlight area right on the edge of that wrapper. And I think that's what it's going to give us once it dries. Now here it's sort of, the areas are sort of getting more smushed together, so I'm going to kind of blend them together, and then we'll go back and blend the other darker areas. And some of the areas in the wrapper, like down here on these bottom ones, you can't really see too much detail. So sometimes you don't want to add detail where it's not, and sometimes you do. It just depends what you're going for, because a lot of these areas in the wrapper we can't see too much, but I want to get a little bit in. So that's why I chose to go with a lighter area, but you could just color the whole thing in dark, because in the reference photo, that's how it looks. Can you show me what your bottle of OMS looks like? I certainly can. Let me get this area blended out, and then I will grab it for you. Just remind me in 1 second. Or 1 minute, I guess. A couple of minutes. By the time we get all this blended out. because I've actually got two. I've got the Gamsol, and that's my go-to, but I've also got the Mona Lisa Mineral Spirits, Mona Lisa Mineral Thinner, Paint Thinner, or something like that. I'll show you guys that one too. You're trying to get some. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. I might have missed putting some black in here, so I'm just going to grab the black and just get some in now. And then we'll blend. And as it dries more, once it's like it's wet right now, so the black and the brown looks similar, but as you can see over here, once it dries, you start to see a little bit more difference between the two colors. And anywhere I see a little bit of that white showing, I'm just going back and just coaxing the colors just slightly. What is the electric pencil sharpener you use? That's a good question. I'm not actually 100% sure. I can pull that out too and show you that as well. It's a battery powered one, but I got that off Amazon before I got the Superpoint minis, the Superpoint one. So that's probably a couple of years old now. And I've only had to change the batteries in it once, so it's lasted. Like, the batteries have lasted in that pretty darn well, which I'm impressed with. But I'll definitely pull that out too, so you can see that if you want. And then we'll come back in and we'll have time to start working on some more of the details. Yes, please. Sure. Not a problem. Because we're almost done blending here. Almost. Okay, and I'm going to come back in with that smaller one. And to clean my brush off, I just dip it in the OMS and then rub it on my paper towel until it comes clean. And I'm going to grab that smaller round one, and I'm going to do the little dark areas up here in the cupcake wrapper. Okay. All right, so that's what it's looking like so far. So I am just going to grab the Gamsol and the paint thinner there. Alright, so this is what the Gamsol bottle looks like, and it's from Gamblin Artist Oil Colors. It's 100% pure odorless mineral spirits, and I'm pretty sure I just got this at my local art shop. And then I've got this one here. This is the Mona Lisa Odorless Paint Thinners. So this one does say it's mineral spirits, and this one says it's a paint thinner, but they're basically the exact same thing. And this one I got at my local Michael's. So if you have a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby or something like that, you might be able to find this one. And I've tested both of them, and this one works the exact same. I've just used this one because it's usually what I've already got in my little container. And then for my pencil sharpener, it is just one of these big ones, and it says it's an Office Pro one. And I think that's the only information that it says on it. And it's just a battery powered one, and I just keep it stuck in my drawer and I pull it out when I need to sharpen anything. So those are the products that I'm using right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and just brush off any little bits. This is just a generic soft brush, and I like to use this with my colored pencil pieces for any little pieces. Instead of wiping them with my hand, I will use this and just wipe anything off. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start getting the shadow down at the very bottom in, and it's sort of like a bluish shadow color. So I want to keep that because I'm playing up some of the blues in our cupcake here. But I'm also going to put like some black over top of it so it's not just a stark blue. But I'm going to go ahead and use that blue slate, so the same color that we used up here. Shadow says the cupcake is incredibly realistic. Thank you so much. So you can see how much, even though this is so small, so here's the size of my hand, this cupcake's a little bit smaller than that. Just really focusing on where our lights and our darks are going, that makes such a huge difference, right? I want a cupcake now. It looks so good. Thank you, Lisa. Everybody's getting cupcakes tonight. Cupcakes for everyone. So I really like the shadow that's coming over here. Now, as I was explaining at the beginning, it looks like there's two light sources on this picture. So it looks like there's one that's coming this way that has more of a warm tint to it, and one that's coming this way that has more of a cool tint to it. And I'm using the cool one because that's why I want to play up some of the blues and some of the blue highlight in here. So that's what I'm going to use for my shadow, as our like under shadow layer is this blue slate here. And so I'm just trying to follow where the shadow is. So I see it's kind of coming around, kind of comes up here a little bit, like past this darker area. And it sort of comes out and around and goes up here. So I'm going to kind of, I think it maybe even comes out a little bit more. Something like that. So that's sort of the area that I'm going to put this color in. And I'm going to show you another cool technique that I like to use with the odorless mineral spirits. So we don't get this harsh edge. I'm going to use those to actually pull the color out and fade it out a little bit. And the blues that we're using in this cupcake too is just going to help the oranges stand out more. So our colors are going to pop even more. Now I am going to go over these areas a few times, especially towards the edge of the cupcake here, of the shadow here, because we do need a little bit of pigment on the paper for our odorless mineral spirits to blend it out properly. So I will take my time and go over it a little bit. And I don't know why I still have my Glassine under my hand because I'm just so used to using it, but the desk is obviously just fine. It's more when I'm working over here and I don't want my hands smudging over top of our artwork, or the oils of my hand, you know, touching it. Because sometimes if you've got hand cream, or depending what's on your hands, and you go ahead and touch the paper, that can sort of affect the quality of the paper. Especially if you've got oils or hand cream, then you might not be able to actually layer anything over that area. So you want to be careful with that. And if you don't have Glassine, you can just use a clean piece of paper, but make sure that you're not like rubbing it across your artwork, that you're just laying it down, lifting it up, and laying it in the next area. So this is looking a little blue, but that's okay. I'm going to go on top with that indigo blue, and I'm going to keep this fairly close to our cupcake. Sort of blend it out just slightly in some areas, so sort of the shadow area is a little bit like more in this area. And this is just going to darken the black that we're going to put on top. So black on its own can look quite flat, but if you add other colors underneath of it, then it sort of darkens it and makes it a little bit richer. And I like to do that a lot with blues or purples, add them into the black. So that's what you saw like on our underlayer under here, and even our cupcake, we went in with some of those colors. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab our black, and I'm going to get this right up to the edges of our cupcake. And where we're at the edge of our cupcake, I am going to press just a little bit harder, like sort of a medium pressure, because I want there to be a nice defined line between the cupcake and the shadow, like the cupcake wrapper. So I'm not trying to burnish, but I am trying to push just slightly harder. And then I'm just going to fade this out a bit. So I might not bring it all the way up to the edge of our blue that we put down, our lightest blue, but I'm going to pull it pretty close. And again, where we've put that indigo blue, I'm going to make sure that it's more concentrated, so I'm doing more layers of it there. I'm still not pushing fairly hard. And then where I've got the light blue, I'm just sort of like lightly glazing it over top. And then if we don't like the blue, we can always come right back over top with our black and just cover it up. We can have a nice dark shadow. But I like to have a little bit of color in things, so I'm showing you what I like to do, and then you can kind of look at it and decide what you want to do, you know, how you want your shadow to look. Okay, I just got a pencil sharpener and the OMS coming. You're quick. You're quick on the draw. My goodness. You're doing two things. You're shopping online and you're watching this. Amazon is my best friend. Yeah. I think Amazon thinks it's my best friend too. I definitely get a lot of stuff from there just because it's so convenient. So I'm just going over top of this area where I want it to be nice and dark, just making sure I've got enough pigment down. Okay. So again, I'm going to take our mineral spirits, and I think I'm going to go just up a size in my brush. And I'm going to start at the darkest area and drag it out, and then as we get closer to our edge, I will end up cleaning my brush off. Hi, that is very cute. Oh, thank you so much, Mary. Welcome, welcome. It's not done. We've still got to go over top with more details to make it pop more. We need to go over with some more highlights, but this is sort of our base layer over our cupcake. And then I'm going to start dragging this color out a bit. And just dipping in for more when I need it. And if I find it's a little too much, I'll just dab it off onto the paper towel to get rid of some of it. Because depending how much pencil you've got down on the paper, will depend if you need a little bit more or a little bit less mineral spirits. If you've got more pencil, you'll need less of the mineral spirits to blend it out. And if you've got less pencil, then you might need to use a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of whatever I can in there. And then I'm going to start working the opposite way now. So I'm going to take this blue and work it towards the dark area. But I'm really working the edge of this blue because I want it to fade out too. So I've got a little bit less of the mineral spirits on my brush because I don't want to get like sort of that stained look, but I want it to kind of fade out. And once I get this blended, I can go back in and drag it just a little bit more. So I didn't put the shadow quite like up as high, because as you can see, I can really drag out and fade out this shadow now. And this is going to take some patience. Now I'm going to dip in and just get a tiny bit, and I'm probably even going to dab it off onto the paper towel there. And I'm just really blending this edge so that it sort of like almost fades off into nothing. But there's a hint of that blue underneath still. So I'm kind of liking how that's looking. And I'm going to wipe this brush off really good until it gets clean, so that the next time I go to blend something, I don't end up smudging that black color into anything. Okay. So I kind of like how that's looking. You guys can let me know what you think. I'm just going to get a quick drink here. So we're almost at our time. So do you guys want me to just go ahead and finish this up sometime this week, like as a real-time tutorial? And then we'll start our pastel piece next weekend, because all I want to do is do another layer on this pumpkin, get some highlights in this icing. So all I'm going to do is, I guess I can show you guys real quick, is take like our Polychromos, because this is a harder lead, so I can push a little bit harder without it breaking. And I'm going to go along some of these lighter areas here. And as you can see, because we didn't get rid of the tooth of the paper, do you see how easy that white like stands out? And then I'm also going to do that and get some of the white highlights on here and get some of the darker spots, but I can go ahead and do that as a separate video and put that out sometime this week or next week, just depending how busy it is. And then we will start our pumpkin scene. So it's going to be a, I guess I could give you guys a sneak peek here if I can pull it up. So I designed it in Procreate. So this is what it's going to look like. Let me see if that's in frame there. I might have to zoom out just a little bit here. So let me see if this is in frame. So it's going to look something like this. So I want like a nice dark background with like a wooded area and then our pumpkin and maybe some fireflies, something like that. So it's going to be dark and spooky. So let me know if you guys want to start that next weekend. And I'm just going to put my tablet back so I can see the chat. Yes, please. Okay. So as long as everybody's okay with that, but I will finish this up as a real-time tutorial. Probably take another maybe 45 minutes to an hour just to really put some of those last minute details onto this. So I want to increase our lights, increase our darks, get some of that detail, and I really want to make that cupcake texture in there too. So putting some darks and some lights in there is really going to help that. The cupcake is fantastic. Yes, I think finish the cupcake on your own and then start the jack-o'-lantern next week. Thanks. Perfect. Since the only ones who have commented had said start the jack-o'-lantern, I will definitely do that. But I'll definitely finish this up for anybody who's following along, because I know there was a couple people that said they are following along. We'll finish it up completely and we'll start the next one next weekend. So look forward to those videos this week. Thank you guys so much for joining today. And I think this live stream, the stream was a little bit better. We had one little hiccup there, but it did much better. So I think restarting the router before I stream every Sunday will be the thing that I'll do, just to make sure that it stays good quality for you guys. And I'll still, see if there's anything else that I can do to help it. But if there's no more last minute questions, I'm going to go ahead and finish this. Lisa says, I know I say it all the time, but I just enjoy watching you do your art. Oh, thank you so much. You guys are so amazing. And that's why I love doing these tutorials, because even if I can help one person, that's worth it for me. And I'm doing, sitting down and making time. So like saying I'm going to live stream on Sunday at this time, it sort of forces me to sit down and get the work done, because sometimes it's just so, you can't find the time, in an hour here and an hour there, but I could be doing other stuff. So sometimes if you just set a schedule and sit down, okay, every week, this day, this time to this time, or every day from this time to this time, even a half hour a day just to work on your piece. It might take you a little bit longer, but at least you're getting it done, right? So that's my goal for these. And then we can always chat and stuff too. And I still make my, other videos, my more edited videos too as well. So I like doing a bit of both. But thank you guys so much for joining today. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Wendy says, thank you for sharing your talents. This has been so fun. Have a wonderful week, my friend, and everyone else. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for EB. You guys are just so great. I just don't want to end this stream. You guys are just giving me all the compliments. So I'm just going to stay here forever. But I think that's time. And I know EB does want to get ready for her stream. She does stream over on Twitch. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you check out her channel and check out her Twitch stream. She will be streaming in an hour from now, I believe. And then Corey's also a moderator on here, Colorfully Optimistic. So, check out her channel as well, because she does great videos as well. Yes, James is saying it's ready. It's time to go. He's at the door waiting. He's like, come on, Mom. I know it's time to go. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you sometime this week and next weekend to start our new tutorial. Bye, guys.